Good morning. My name's Dodd Galbraith. I'm the chair of the Metro Stormwater Committee. Welcome to the May 5th Stormwater Committee meeting. We are officially called to order. Our first item of business this morning is to review our minutes and our decision letters from the April 7th meeting that we had last month. So I want to ask all the committee members to use this publicly noticed live meeting time to review the minutes and decision letters to make sure we don't have any additional edits or amendments to clarify a motion or any language in the minutes and decision letters. If you don't have any opposition to it, it's often our tradition to try to manage the approval of the minutes and decision letters in one motion, if that's your preference.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the April 7th meeting minutes as presented in the associated approval letter.
All right, we have a motion to approve the April 7th meeting minutes and decision letters as presented with no edits or amendments. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
All right, motion been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Does anybody need any more time? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Okay, so our next agenda on the next item on the agenda is the Ben Allen Ridge final variance proposal. They were here for a preliminary proposal previously, so I want to ask them to come on up to the table. We've only got 4 chairs. If you need more, we can provide them, but we'll just have to get you in front of a mic so you can be heard and recorded for the video recording. So our normal routine is if one person will be sort of the lead moderator for the group, introduce everybody at the table so that we know what type of resource expertise we have to ask questions of. We'll give you 10 minutes for your presentation. And then after that, we'll go to a public hearing. We'll ask for feedback from the public or any emails or phone calls or council representative feedback on whether they're for or against. We'll ask them to state it for the record. We'll give them 2 minutes apiece. After we've done that, we'll close the public hearing and then we'll start the committee deliberation. So the only thing I would ask you is try to begin your presentation with the technical focus of the variance, and we can kind of fill in the society and social benefit things at the end, because we want to make sure we cover the details that are most pertinent to the case. So is that fair? Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to have staff introduce the case and read you a legal statement, and then we'll get started.
Opening statement to the applicant. If you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Stormwater Management Committee, you may appeal the decision by filing for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the committee's decision. You are advised to seek the independent advice of legal counsel to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been satisfied. Case number 1 on the agenda is Case 2022-0005, Ben Allen Ridge Final at 301 Ben Allen Ridge and 0 Ben Allen Road. APN is 061-0000-1700 and 061-0000-8400. Inspector is Catherine O'Hara, Council District 8, Nancy Van Reese. Applicant's request: 1. Disturbance removal of a man-made pond and associated buffers. 2, disturbance removal of two low-quality wetlands and associated buffers, disturbance of the stream buffer to allow for the installation of a greenway trail, and continuous mowing and maintenance of the buffer area. Appellant is 301 Ben Allen LLC, represented by Tripp Smith, Alfred Benesh and Company. Comments. Stormwater staff. Staff is uncertain how project logistics create a hardship necessitating the elimination of the hydrologically connected resources. Codes had no comment provided. Planning layout is primarily consistent with a preliminary approved by council. Greenways, no comment provided.
All right, so I'll start the 10-minute clock after you introduce everybody.
Okay. Tripp Smith, Benish, civil engineer on the project. Nathan Oliver with Hawkins, landscape architect on the project. Tony Groh with Groh environmental engineer. And Matt Nicholson with Clear Blue Equity. Yeses, I just want to thank everybody for your time. As Dodd mentioned, we were here last year in August for prelim approval. And are now returning for our final approval. Since that time, or prior to that time, we had about 4 months of coordination with TDEC and the state, working through a hydrologic determination, composing the preliminary site plan for removal of a man-made pond that was constructed in 2006, along with the associated fringe wetland of low quality. Since that time, we have submitted our individual ARAP permit through the state. Final comment wraps on that, I believe, Friday. We have not received any public comment to this point, and we would expect that individual permit to be issued at the earliest next week. We've, as we kind of stated our intention during the prelim process, we work closely with the stakeholders and TDEC to focus on a mitigation strategy to enhance the natural features and environmental quality of the site and enhance the buffers to really create a better habitat for the Streamside salamander that was encountered as part of the hydrologic determination and previous coordination with TDEC. I did want to make sure, because I know it came in late, did the correspondence and email from Nancy Van Rees, the council person, make it in everyone's packet as far as her support for this variance? Okay. So yeah, like as I said, when we did the prelim, we presented our plan and our hardship associated with really trying to provide 2 fire vehicle apparatus and emergency separate paths for the site, which was a fire code requirement, as well as meeting the requirements for the trail-oriented development policy, which led to buffer disturbances and the need to impact the wetland, the low-quality wetland and the pond in some manner. After working with TDEC and coordinating with them about what they would like to see from a mitigation strategy, the pond and the removal of it, as well as the low-quality wetland, wasn't of concern to them. And so we proceeded with that approach on our mitigation strategy with enhancing the buffer to improve the natural quality and environmental component of the site. Additionally, we did purchase wetland credits from the, was it Swamp? Remind me. From the Swamp Road Mitigation Bank to offset at a 2-to-1 ratio of that removal of the pond and associated wetland. And then various reforestation mitigation strategies, addition of buffers outside of the 30-foot required water quality buffer as identified in the plan. Obviously, the removal of some dilapidated barn structures that were within the buffer to enhance really buffers that currently don't exist, that are mowed and maintained areas. And so that was kind of our approach, along with identifying tree save areas on the site, to the tune of close to an acre for that. So, we can. I don't know if it makes more sense to reserve some time for specific questions that the committee may have about those practices and mitigation strategies, or if we want to kind of dive into those. I guess, that we mentioned some minor modifications from our current plan to what was presented in the preliminary plan phase. Most of those are associated with a reconfiguration of Building 7 to work better with the natural grade of the site. Under the new stormwater regulations, it was also necessary for us to pursue an LID waiver, which has been obtained due to geotechnical subgrade conditions and not being able to meet the required infiltration rates for those bioponds that were in the stormwater facility areas that were presented in the initial plan. We are still planning for approximately 3,000 square feet of biopond in the site fill areas where we expect that fill material to provide the infiltration rate necessary. And then, kind of using a hybrid strategy of that along with permeable pavement, some underground detention storage, as well as 80% water quality units. And so I think those are really the only two changes from what was presented preliminarily. I'll say, well, there has also been a bit of a greenway alignment change, which is, in our opinion, of benefit to the site. One associated with the Building 7 reconfiguration to allow for that greenway to be more accessible. Also, in order to reduce disturbance of the greenway that would be required to provide connectivity to the adjacent parcel at the northeast corner of the site, rather than run the greenway along the eastern edge of the easternmost stream and have that buffer disturbance to provide that connectivity. We're proposing now to utilize an existing concrete access that was, I think it's in one of the pictures, maybe 7A, 7B, that's providing access from one barn structure to the other barn structure. And we're proposing now to utilize that current crossing and access for our greenway alignment and replace the existing culvert pipe that's there with a 3-sided box. This was kind of discussed in the pre-app meeting with stormwater staff. It seemed like that would be something that would be approved administratively since it was enhancement to the current situation. So I think that covers the changes from those plans. I think I can stop now unless
You still have more time, but, and we only have 2 items on the agenda, so.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
One thing when we start with the TDEC on looking at the site, the Streamside Salamander came apparent that they were there through the HT process. And one thing they noticed, talking to Dave Withers and also TWRA, is that the pond was actually a bad habitat for the Streamside Salamander. And they had no problem at all getting rid of the wetland because the species of fish that were in the pond were actually getting rid of the salamander. So by removing the pond, they actually would enhance the streamside salamander habitat in the streams. That's where they usually are. So I just want to add that to it, that they're very interested in removing the pond because of enhancing. The main objective was to enhance the streamside salamander habitat. So there's additional requirements beyond the wetland permit, the wetland credits that we're purchasing of doing restoration in the stream for the streamside salamander habitat. So there's extra work that's going on as part of the permit condition. So I wanted to add that to that.
Yeah. That's correct. And there was a letter to that effect from the preliminary. I don't know that was in the packet, but there was from August of last year from David Withers at TDEC, a letter to that effect. I believe I have it and can read it if I need to. But
yeah, it's generally preferable to read language directly from the regulator.
Okay. Yeah. But to Tony's point, there is a letter to that effect that was presented and was part of the preliminary approval and process regarding removal of the pond and associated wetland. Yeah.
All right, so we'll refer to that after the public hearing then.
And
we'll leave that up there, Rebecca.
And as Tony mentioned, we can kind of go through the draft of the individual permit, but there are multiple special conditions along with the general conditions and mitigation conditions of that permit that require us to find some upland areas of that stream to add some slab rock areas to enhance the habitat and the breeding areas for the Streamside salamander, which we're committed to and want to do.
All right, is that it? All right, y'all are still under time, so. Okay, so at this time, we've heard a presentation from the applicant, and so we're going to open a public hearing for members of the public or members of local government or others to offer their perspective in favor or against. So do we have anyone here who's present? I think my mic just went, yeah, there it is. Who's present who'd like to come up and speak at the podium and express their support or opposition? All right, seeing none. Do we have any letters, voicemails, phone calls, transcripts that need to be read in the record or need to be referred to in our packet?
We do have the letter from the council member. It's on your tablets. That no other new letters were received. I think there were some letters in approval from the preliminary that we still have, and also this letter from Mr. David Withers that's being referenced as well.
Okay. All right. So seeing that there's no additional feedback other than what we already have in our packets and what we received previously and no new input, we'll close the public hearing. At this time, we'll open it up for a committee discussion.
I'm interested to hear from staff, just feedback. So I'm trying to break down the different requests, and I understand the wetland removal request, and then of course the mowing and maintenance, which is pretty common. But as far as number 1 and 3, I thought that greenways were exempt from buffer disturbances, and then I also didn't realize that man-made ponds require variance approval. I thought that was something that was more commonly done at an administrative level. I don't know if we just put them in here since they were coming anyway, or if those are items that do require.
Ponds with hydrologic connectivity require a buffer and therefore require a variance for their removal.
Gotcha, okay.
And this is connected to a wetland, and TDEC assumed it was probably a spring-fed resource that was just dammed up at a certain point. So there possibly was a stream in that area previously.
Got it.
Does staff want to address any other questions that were just presented?
Can you clarify the greenway question?
I thought the greenways were a permissible buffer impact.
They're staff approvable. Was this one added?
I think the issue with that is the trail-oriented policy required a 12-foot wide greenway. And so in conversations in the preliminary pre-app meeting, I think the greenway width that's specified for administrative approval is 5 feet. And so because of that discrepancy, and then with the ask to mow maintain just outside of that and place signage, within a 4 to 5 foot width outside of the greenway, that was kind of why it was rolled into the variance and ask.
Got it. Thank you.
And is this a public greenway, a metro greenway? Okay.
That satisfy all your questions?
Yeah, I just didn't, if some of these, I wanted to try to establish the degree of the variance, because, were there truly really 4 requests, or were there 2.5?
Yeah, we do like following the process, so, all right. Anybody else?
Just to build on that, the preliminary approval that we granted in August, was it not only for the non-regulated, non-jurisdictional pond disturbance, or was it for all of these items that we're reviewing today? Do they match? I guess is my question.
I believe the pond is jurisdictional.
That's my memory.
Yeah.
It is jurisdictional?
Yes, it is jurisdictional. And the approval, I think, was for the removal of the pond and the wetland that was connected to it. And then, I don't know, Logan, do you remember if the other disturbance was part of it?
Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the original package here.
Right, and just to take that one step forward while you're doing that, Logan, I want to make sure that our preliminary approval is is in line in what we're discussing today. And if there's items outside of that, we need to make sure that we're accounting for those separately.
And aware of it, yeah.
And that's a good one for staff too. It'd be nice for these types of cases to have the previous preliminary approval packet in our files so we can ensure that consistency.
And neither Dr. Kemp or I were on the committee at that time, so we'll rely on you all to tell us if there's an additional request or a change.
The original file is on your tablet. It just starts
sorry.
with Ben Allen instead of SWMC, but mine's not pulling up very well right now.
It starts with,
It just starts with Ben Allen, like the
Oh.
first word is Ben Allen.
okay.
That's the preliminary package.
Okay, great.
Okay, so while we're reviewing that, let me ask you a few questions since I haven't seen any others come up. So let's go back to the letter from Mr. Withers, and let's just see what kind of language he uses. I mean, you're obviously not getting, environmental organization opposition or citizen opposition, but, okay, I see
I think those of you who know David,
Yeah, I
that
know
this
David.
letter reflects how he talks.
Yes, I agree.
So I think probably these two paragraphs.
Wholeheartedly support conscientious removal of the pond and creation and enhancement of existing seasonal channels. Yeah, I think that does it right there.
And when I
Okay.
spoke with David, I think at the time, I don't know if plans had changed, but he thought probably part of the old pond and wetland might be being transitioned into new salamander habitat, not just the enhancement in other areas, but, so that's not reflected in these plans.
Okay. All right, so we'll let y'all ponder that a little bit and see if that's something you might want to amend or just share with us, whether or not it's something you can consider adding. Okay, so my second comment, and that covered the salamander habitat. What is the, you said you're making buffer improvements. What is the exact acreage of buffer that's being improved and versus what's, and I'm sorry, I'm a little fuzzy. Are we encroaching on any buffers in this, or are we just?
Both the pond and linear wetland had buffers, which are going away with the.
So it's primarily the pond and the wetland, not any streamside buffers that were?
Only for the trail.
Only for the trail. Okay, yeah, for the paved service, okay, which we typically do a lot.
And there's a small portion for the removal of the barn
Okay.
in the buffer.
Okay, so of the buffer associated with the pond and the wetland, how many acres or square feet is that compared to how many acres or square feet that you're enhancing?
So the amount of wetland and pond area that's being removed is just over 17,000 square feet. The amount of buffer that was previously mown and cleared that will be improved and enhanced is 14,600 approximately. And then we've also have an additional 10,000 square feet outside of that will be maintained and managed as a buffer from no-mow and planting strategies.
So is it fair to say 24,600 square feet is your buffer improvement? Would the staff agree with that?
Well, are you just letting certain areas grow up and become buffers?
The areas,
If you go to the civil plan that precedes that, there's a blue hatched area. Those would be areas that are outside of the required buffer. That would be treated as no-mow maintained true buffer areas. Not taking an active approach to mitigation there, but more of a passive one.
So are those going to be, deed protected or assigned to a conservation easement or, because, the buffers are perpetual, regulated buffers.
I don't think that's been discussed, but I don't think we would have an issue with that.
Okay. I mean, if we're going to get 2-to-1 improvement, we'd like to know it's going to stay there, but,
I think that we could make a condition that be included in the long-term maintenance plan and identified, because then it would be recorded against the property.
okay. that sounds good. All right, so that takes care of that. Mitigation credits, where are your mitigation credits? Are they in, this is my specific question, I'm sorry. Are they in the same watershed? Sub-watershed?
Tony, do you want to
Yes.
speak to that?
They are.
Swamp Road, did the same watershed.
Okay, all right. Staff okay with that? Is that your? Okay, thank you. All right, and the LID waiver. Does anybody want to explain that?
Sure. Our system is set up to require LID as a first option for post-construction treatment, but that does allow for any applicant to make petition to Metro to demonstrate a limitation on their property, that they can't do LID. Some of the things that normally equate to that are brownfields on sites. We have a lot of shallow and emerging bedrock in Metro that really makes it very difficult to do LID. And then karst in certain areas if we think it's going to promote a degradation of those areas. So we have an internal committee in Metro Water within our various other duties that hears those cases and makes determinations.
Okay, just want to make sure the public understands that, and future applicants and who've had to abide by LID standards and didn't get a waiver, so just that there is a reason for it.
Yes, and for
Okay.
what it's worth, we've heard hundreds of those cases given our geology here, and they're being approved up to this date at about 80%.
Okay. And I guess last, I just want to acknowledge how much, at least I appreciate the level of effort y'all have invested into trying to make this better. I mean, development's always going to create more runoff. There are regulatory approaches that help with that, but you know, nothing's better than natural landscapes. And so I appreciate the effort you went through to make it better, including this three-sided box culvert. That's something we do appreciate being put on the table. All right, that's all my questions. Are we back to our previous discussion about the comparing this proposal with the preliminary? Are we okay with that?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else? So I guess the last point was, since y'all have had time to think about it, it was referenced, one alternative was discussed that you could record these conservation areas. Would that be something that would be protected, or would be based upon the current property owner that would be lost in the transfer to the next property owner?
They transfer with the property.
Okay.
There's
All right.
language, standard language in the Metro form.
Okay. Is that acceptable to you all, if we make that a condition? Okay. We try to be collaborative, so. All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. I don't like to make motions myself, so.
I'll make the motion to approve with the condition that the expanded buffer areas are identified in the recorded document that will be the long-term maintenance plan.
All right, we have a motion on the table to approve with the conditions thus described. Everybody understand the motion? Is there a second? All right, we have a
I'll
second. From Dr. Kemp. Motion been made and properly seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Hard work, hard prep makes it a lot easier to consider. Okay, so ask our next applicant to come up, Ford Prologis, 7228 Centennial Boulevard, case 2022-00007. Council District 20, Mary Carolyn Roberts. We'll ask you to come up. and assemble at the table. If you need more than 4 chairs, we'll make them available. And then we'll deal with the mics after that. Oh, we have one individual.
The other two are
Shy?
in the hall.
Oh, in the hall, okay. Okay. Do we want to take a 5-minute bathroom break? Hey, okay, let's take a 5-minute bathroom break and give them a chance to come and pause the recording, and we'll get started again. Okay, so we're back. This is the May 5th Stormwater Committee meeting. We're back from our break. We're on agenda item 2022-0007 for Prologis. Did you all hear the legal statement read earlier? All 3 of you? Okay. So we're going to have staff introduce it. We'll give you 10 minutes. I'll start the clock after your moderator introduces your guests. Ask you to kind of start with the technical facts, add the social and other economic after, so we'll make sure we have time to get your technical variant-specific arguments in the record in a timely manner. Then we'll close your portion of the presentation. We'll open public hearing, ask for public comment. After we've gotten all public comment, we'll close that. We'll come back for committee deliberation, then we may ask you a few questions. All right? That sound okay?
Chairman, I need to recuse myself from this case.
All right. We have one member recusing, and we still have a quorum. Okay. Mr. Bowman.
Case number 2 on the agenda is case 2022-00007, Ford Prologis at 7228 Centennial Boulevard. APN is 080000000200. Inspector is Lee Nelson. Council District 20, Mary Carolyn Roberts. Applicant's request, disturbance and encapsulation of streams and associated buffers. Appellant is 7228 Centennial Boulevard, LLC, represented by Roy Hassel, Barge Design Solutions. Comments, Stormwater staff. Staff is uncertain how project logistics create a hardship necessitating the elimination of the resource. Code said no comment provided. Planning defers to Stormwater staff, and Greenways has no comment provided.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bowman. All right, we'll proceed, and like I said, I'll start the clock after you introduce your experts.
Good morning. Thank you for letting us be here. My name's Jeff Cundiff with Barge Design Solutions.
I'm David Bailey with Prologis.
I'm Frank Matucci with Barge Design Solutions.
Thank you. Rebecca, would you mind pulling up that presentation that we pulled together?
And I need to just state for the record that Mr. Cundiff and I know each other. He was a graduate student of mine, but I wasn't biased about his grades then, and I won't be biased today, so.
Understood. Thank you. All right. Yeah. All right, next slide, please. So we want to just kind of walk y'all through this project a little bit, try to give you a brief overview. So this site is adjacent to the Ford Glass site off of Briley Parkway. It's been used by them for years and years and years. There's been a lot of development that's occurred on the property, from earth moving activities, stormwater management facilities, and it's also been a solid waste disposal area that's since been capped. That property has now been purchased by our client, and they're looking at doing an industrial development out here consistent with the neighborhood. All right, thank you. We go to the next one. And this kind of shows some of the historical images of the site. You'll notice it's kind of odd shape of the property, but I was just trying to capture what I was just explaining, just how there's been a lot of activity out here over the years, and our intent here is really to try to clean it up so that we can enhance the buffers and things that lead up to the Cumberland River for the greater benefit of the community. Thank you. All right, and I'm going to turn it over to Nick here to talk a little bit about the environmental features that are on site that we're here to talk to you about today.
You mean Frank, right?
We had a total of 2 stream features within the site that are jurisdictional per TDEC and the Army Corps. This one on the slide here is Stream A. It's directly adjacent to Bicentennial Boulevard. Originates from a stormwater output that's at the property to the north outside of ours. And all the source water flows directly to the south and then enters to a culvert that we anticipate goes into another stormwater collection system along either Bicentennial Boulevard or completely off-site. This stream we did a SQT survey on is not functioning or functioning at risk by parameters and is severely impaired by what you can see in the photo. Is a combined channel. There's very little substrate or natural substrate. There's a lot of riprap material from previous land use within the property. It doesn't provide suitable habitat for local wildlife and also aquatic organisms, as the riprap is fairly embedded and doesn't allow high oxygenation zones that allow for macroinvertebrates to thrive in this stream. The buffer is currently cleared. It's routinely mowed, and there's no woody vegetation to offer shading to the stream. And as we said before, the historic land use has severely degraded the stream. There is a culvert under that's been that's been previously installed for access into the property, and then again it flows into another stormwater collection system that we do not know where it goes to. Next slide. So this is the second stream. This is Stream B. It's got about half of a natural buffer to it, and the rest is, again, manipulated for previous land use on the site. This stream, when we did the SQT survey, the only parameter that was determined to be functioning was the catchment hydrology, and that is due because the catchment area for this particular stream is very shallow. It's very small, and it's a very surface area. There's very little flow in the channel. It's fed by what we think is perched water out there, and there is a significant amount of glass shards in this stream from previous historic land use. As it cascades down off of a bedrock bluff, it goes into this riprap channel that you're seeing here at the bottom right. The water then goes subsurface and flows right below that riprap that you're seeing there, and then flows into that culvert that's directly below. Since the water is at ground level or below, it again doesn't provide good habitat for wildlife and macroinvertebrates. There's a significant amount of embeddedness in this stream, and again, no significant habitat. The buffers, there is a okay buffer at the top. There is some woody shading, but at the bottom, again, we start seeing some riprap getting thrown into the buffer areas. There's a significant presence of invasive species such as Chinese privet and honeysuckle, which is not favorable for buffers. And due to the historic degradation of this site, the surface water from this particular stream flows into that culvert, and we believe that it potentially goes into another stormwater system either within the site or beyond the site, that we could not particularly find the outfall for this stream.
Thank you, Frank. Just want to summarize what our proposed impacts are here that we're here to talk about today. These highlight the 2 stream features that we've talked about. The one on the left, closest to Centennial Boulevard, that is the one that is basically the outfall for the detention pond of our adjacent property owner. And the one to the right represents the second one that Frank was just talking about. Total impacts here between buffer and stream equate to 0.45 acres. Okay, thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about the uniqueness of this property. You look, the first thing that stands out is the shape of the property. We only have one main access in and out of the property. And so in order to get into the property, we're forced to impact these streams. We have to widen the entrance for the tractor trailer trucks that are going to be coming in right off of Centennial Boulevard. And then in addition to that, we have to have an entrance drive that goes into the property. We looked at trying to figure out if there was some, alternative ways to avoid some of these features. And one of the things that we were trying to figure out is could we swing the entrance road up to the north and around, and then we get into the side of a hill and we end up cutting down that hill. And effectively what we're doing is we're going to be cutting off any of the flow that would have been going into that feature to begin with. So just the nature of being able to access this property, there really was no feasible alternatives that we could come up with to avoid these features. Let's see, in addition to that, well, I guess those are really the two main factors, is the site topography going up the hill, and then also just being able to access the property off of this one access point. So what we're presenting today is we're proposing to get some mitigation credits as part of our TDEC permits. In addition to that, above and beyond just for this board, we're proposing an additional 0.7 acres of buffer enhancement along the Cumberland River, as you see here in blue, so that we can get to the total of a 2.1 ratio of mitigation for these proposed impacts. And that sums up our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cundiff. All right, and David and Frank, right? Okay, all right, so we're going to go to our public hearing now and see if we have anyone physically present who may want to come up and offer comments for or against the current proposal. I don't hear any footsteps. All right. Seeing none, do we have any emails, phone call, transcripts, other forms of communication by council representative that we need to be aware of?
We didn't have any letters, emails, anything on this case.
Okay. All right, since we don't have any additional public input, we're going to close the public hearing at this time and open it up to the committee to ask questions. Okay, I'll start since I don't see fingers rushing to the mic. Let's see, can you convert the disturbances in square feet or acres to linear feet, since we're talking about streams?
So stream A is 88 linear feet and stream B is 75.
And then is that the encapsulation and removal? Is that fair to describe it that way, or does that include disturbance of the buffer?
It will be, yes, removal.
Be all the above.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And okay, so for the benefit of the committee, let me describe kind of a couple of cases from the past, although we're not wedded to precedent per se. We had an industrial proposal that came before us, I think a couple of years ago. Mr. Gangenware brought it to us as a former committee member. It proposed to encapsulate several hundred linear feet, as I remember it. And he offered mitigation. The committee at that time chose to deny it. And then the airport authority came to us, I think about a year ago, or maybe under a year ago. I believe they proposed about 700 linear feet. I think so. Mike's nodding his head. And we approved that one on the basis that it was a public project. As many of you may know, Public Works and other public projects get a little more flexibility because they don't occur as frequently as residential development, industrial property, and they are for public purposes. So their scope and impact doesn't come up as regularly as typical traditional development projects do. And so, and also that particular channel, because of their desire to keep birds out of engines. If you've seen the movie, what was it called? It was named after the pilot that landed the plane in the Hudson River. Yeah, Sully. And so typically they don't manage streams on airports in a way that is very healthy for streams anyway. And so we decided to allow them to mitigate that. So that's kind of the framework. Just a couple of comments, and maybe this will help as well. But you know, I typically don't base my decisions on the quality of the habitat or the current condition of the habitat. And I say I like to use the analogy of. I used to use the analogy of a wrecked Mercedes, but I'll use like a fixer-upper analogy, like a Model T with a frame and a body. You know, it doesn't have the paint, it doesn't have all the equipment that came on it, but the integrity of that very valuable antique car can be restored. Okay, so we typically like to see some discrete channel protected over time. They're already protected as streams, or you wouldn't be here today, so that it's cheaper and easier to restore them when the opportunity arises. So, so we really have to kind of base it upon either the criteria for a variance and in combination with mitigation and in combination with the degree of the impact that you're proposing. So that being said, it's really just up to, you know, the individual committee members' perspectives, and we'll continue the discussion.
Can we revisit the definition of hardship, just for everyone's sake?
Yeah, I don't remember did you hear them use the word hardship? Okay. Hardship, you're allowed to use words any way you want to use them here. We have to use the words that are relevant to a variance. And so you know, it's a hardship that I have to stop at a red light frequently when I'm in a hurry, right? So the kind of hardship that we're allowed to consider here, based upon a state appeals court decision for an appealed case that we denied 2 or 3 years ago, is that there has to be a hydrogeomorphic, fluvial geomorphic anomaly that the buffer ordinance and our stream protection regulations could not have foreseen. And so the site has to, the stream, the site has to be geologically or topographically an anomaly in the county. And so do you all feel like this is a geographic or topographical anomaly?
Yes, we feel strongly that, I mean, given the shape of the property and the fact that we have to access the property to be able to utilize it, there's no way around it. And then also the significant topography on the site. If we were to try to avoid it, we would be cutting off the water source and eliminate, I mean, we'd be impacting these features no matter what, you know, coming before you. So, I mean, we don't really have a way around it.
Okay. I'm glad you asked about the geology, because I've got a lot of projects in this area, and I know that there's a self-imposed cleanup plan in place that was tied to this property and the property to the south. I think it's tied to this one. I'm interested to hear if y'all have any insight to that, or if it was just the glass plant. There's a lot of off-site improvements that they were having to clean up. The glass plant is toxic. I mean, it's bad. And they dumped them, obviously this was a landfill, they dumped a bunch of the material on this site. I'm curious to hear if y'all have any geological information on the depth of all that material, because part of the plan shows significant cuts. I don't know if all that material is being hauled off, if it's contamination, you know, what are we doing to, is that part of a, you know, is that going to benefit any of the adjacent streams? Or, I mean, there's a lot of different impacts. I know they just pile up all the glass shards that are byproduct of the glass plant, and I think that this property used to be used for a lot of that. And then as far as, so it looks like there's a lot of big retaining walls planned, so there's significant export, and I just don't know where, you know, if that's been accounted for, where that goes. And I'm a little confused on, like, impact to Stream B. I mean, are y'all putting a culvert on it? I know it pops up and it disappears, but I'm not sure if it's a natural fed. I know the source is somewhat unknown. And also curious about, I know wetlands show up on the wetland map, but I think that I would assume they're all kind of created by depressions that were caused by all the landfill. But that's not part of this variance request that I'm seeing, is it?
No, these are the only jurisdictional features on the site that we're here before you today on. And I will, so currently the fill that has been in place over the years has been capped. And so effectively developing this property, we'll be able to capture that stormwater that falls on this current site that seeps through the ground in the Cumberland River. We're going to capture it and we're going to treat it before it ever gets to the Cumberland River. So our net positive impact on the Cumberland River is going to be better by actually developing this property. What was your other question with respect to, so Stream B, it's fed essentially from the hillside up above it, and it drains down into it. And both of these have culverts on either one end or both ends of them already today that are, and these are just open channel sections of those drainage features. Does that answer your question, Jay?
I think so.
Okay.
What, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just to build on that, I was gonna ask, can we not put that stream in a culvert at the entry along Centennial? Was that part of an alternative plan?
It will be in the culvert. Basically, we'll be capturing the culvert discharge that leaves from the detention pond up above us, and we'll be putting it in a culvert between that culvert and the one that it ties into just downstream. So,
Okay, so we're not encapsulating that stream, it's being put in a box culvert? Or
it
culvert.
probably won't even be that big. It'll be relatively small. It's a small drainage feature.
I want to make sure I understand correctly here. And then the other stream, we are encapsulating, or is that also going in a culvert?
It'll also be basically an extension of the existing culvert that's there today. But we'll be capturing that water that falls on the area, that watershed, and treating it before it ever ties into it.
Okay, so we're not encapsulating, we're not, like at the airport, we eliminated the stream.
It was put into either a 3-sided culvert or a 4-sided culvert, as I remember it.
Yeah, if I might add from staff perspective, when a feature is put into a culvert, that is the definition of encapsulation. It's not that it's filled in and done away with. There's usually some continuation of that flow. So that's how staff considers that. I think that's the common terminology for that. While I'm talking, I might offer a question that would maybe help me. It's sort of unusual to hear folks say they don't know where something goes, and from a stormwater perspective, that's a little bit of a concern, which leads me back to your interaction with TDEC Solid Waste on this site. Was this a permitted site, and is there a closure plan associated with this that relates to the capping and the need to keep any water from infiltrating in this area?
I can speak to that. So, a truncated version of it, for the sake of time here. The property does house a registered landfill. The landfill is closed per TDEC, and it is in post-closure. So from TDEC's perspective, the landfill is clean, finished, and done. There's, to your piece a minute ago, there is self-imposed cleanup on the site in the way of seepage treatment. And that's another piece that's important to why we feel like we need to control these streams, not just for access, but the most perpetual, I suppose, issue with that site is the groundwater seeping into the Cumberland River does not have a pH that is acceptable. And so a treatment plan has been put in place years ago and has been executed upon ever since, and it's still going. And it was in part done through a regrading of the site back in, I think, 2012 to control stormwater flow a little better, to avoid certain areas. And then also it's treated with a CO2 system that's maintained in perpetuity on the site. It's our belief that in controlling the stormwater and in covering up the site with development, that perpetual issue will at a minimum be minimized and maybe even be eliminated by controlling that stormwater runoff and controlling the flow waters on that property.
And that system you mentioned is handled within the regulatory framework of TDEC, correct? You report to them, and that is something you coordinate with them on?
We are coordinating with TDEC on it, yes.
Okay.
So do you have any documentation from TDEC? And I'm also interested to know what planning has deemed is appropriate for this site, and any other regulatory bodies that would be involved in the future of this site. Do you have any other preliminary feedback or formal feedback from
we have
in writing?
We have the closure documents from the landfill, if that's what you're referring to.
But anybody can access the closing documents. Those weren't specifically addressed to you in the context of this project. You're just using the closure documents as technical resources to understand the site. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm looking for is, do you have concurrence, written concurrence from TDEC, our planning department here in Metro, saying that they concur with the vision for this property, the direction for it? Do you have anything?
I think the best thing is the zoning is appropriate for the proposed development.
Okay, so the zoning is already, it's already zoned for the purpose that you're proposing?
Correct.
Okay, so, going back to the point on TDEC, traditionally, we like to see the state's perspectives documented in writing. Mm-hmm. Specifically, you probably saw the letter from Mr. Withers that we referred to earlier. And based upon some of the comments that Mr. Hunt made earlier about understanding the hydrological flows and features of the site and complete ingress and egress of stormwater in the site, having a better understanding of that, it might be better to consider coming back or asking for a deferral to get some of these pieces of information and some of this input clarified in writing. Do a little more thinking about, the site characteristics so that you can come back and help us understand what we're considering. And that's just a comment at this point.
And I guess I would like to understand, I'm not sure how that would change our current request, because I'm not sure how that would have any, on these two features that we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think it would change your request, but it might change our opinion of your request.
Or I guess I'm trying to just better understand the value of it to make sure that we can get you what you're asking for.
I'm not prepared to vote on it based upon what I know, so that's what I'm telling you. Now, there's more than one vote besides me, so.
So you all are saying a lot of TDEC says this, and we're going to do this to capture the stormwater, and we're going to improve this, but there's no actual documentation to provide evidence of that. And you have a closed, post-closure landfill on site, and a lot of cut getting to what Jay's talking to. So it'd be nice to kind of know that TDEC is aware about the grading plan and how that may align or not with the closed landfill. How might that affect the closed landfill with flows and things like that?
Go ahead, sorry.
So just for my clarity, I'm the least intelligent person at this table, so I need a little help. So would correspondence work in that regard? So if I guess with TDEC not having any official jurisdiction over the landfill because it is post-closure, our correspondence with them has been, I guess, friendly. You know, it's, hey, this is what we're looking at. Do you like it? And they said, well, we don't have any jurisdiction over it, but sure, that looks fine. Would that shed light on the circumstance, or?
Well, there's ongoing restrictions, I'm sure, as part of that post-closure that says you can't cut here, you can't fill here, and I think that that's all we're looking for is to say, these are the limits. And so I know there's a dashed line on here that demonstrates a solid waste disposal area. I don't know if that's the only area that it is. And are y'all then actually only filling on the area?
Well,
I think that's what we're uncertain about is,
okay.
you know, it's just hard to know with what's included in the package.
And I guarantee you that if something starts not working, they're going to be out there, no matter what status it's in.
And so I guess that's the crux of it, and we can certainly provide information, but the way, just, I guess, to explain what I know, the way that is set up is the landfill, because it's in post-closure and TDEC has no jurisdiction over it, by their rules, restrictions, and laws, we're allowed to do whatever we like to with that landfill. Now, if there's a release, we are then responsible for that if they're not in the loop. So that's the reason for I guess, the way things have been going thus far. But
these decisions go a lot more efficiently when the information associated with the proposal is not vague, or at least partially vague. So, particularly when it's pertinent to the water concerns.
Okay, I just want to clarify that landfill area is outside of the request at hand, but we will be happy to get that additional information to aid in this decision.
Yeah, I think that's the point, is that we just, it's not clear to us. So.
And I'd like to circle back to what Mr. Hunt said about the uncertainty of the flow and where the inlet outlets are for the streams that you're affecting. It would be good to have that resolved, just so we know what areas are upstream or downstream could be affected by the encapsulation.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might add one other piece of clarification. We have dealt with a lot of landfill sites, all different types, and staff normally asks for a certain amount of documentation. There are various types of documentation needed. I guess in asking my question, I was just wondering, given the fact you have flows where you don't know where you go and you have a landfill, just to make sure there wasn't something unknown out there that might have changed your variance request. We do routinely on landfill sites, certainly, and it is one of the listed limitations or qualified limitations. You don't want to infiltrate stormwater into a landfill, creates all sorts of issues. So that was the nexus of my question, just wanting to make sure that we got a complete variance request at the beginning such that we didn't get down the line and something else pop up. Sounds like this is a lot farther down the line maybe than some we see, but that was the nexus of my question.
Yes.
And really, impact to Stream A is, I mean, those are just crossings. I mean, so that doesn't seem to be much of an issue at all. I think I think a lot of the people are more concerned about Stream B, and it's not that you won't add value to go ahead and keep water from getting in the horrible parts of this, and that could be the best thing for the property and for the streams and a good reason to support it. But I think that that's what the chairman's concerned about, and is just making sure that we've got the documentation to, that we can stand on and put it in there.
And then one more to that, can we talk about the wetlands? You said that they were non-jurisdictional. Okay, so there's no reason to come back and discuss those disturbances in this committee. Is that correct? They are non-jurisdictional.
That is correct.
Okay.
And there's an official determination that they're non-jurisdictional.
It's in the works right now. Okay. I'd like to just say thank you for that clarification because I was a little unclear earlier, so I appreciate that. So.
Okay, all right, so we can move for a deferral. They can request a deferral, but I think we still have to make it a formal motion either way, so, and council's nodding their head, and I promised I would.
Yeah, we would like to request a deferral to make sure.
Today. All right, so, all right, so anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to defer one meeting.
Motion been made to defer for 30 days. Anyone have a second? All right, motion been made and properly second. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, see you next month. Okay, so, ma'am? Yeah, somebody left that, didn't they?
Oh, is it?
Hope they don't need that.
That was for the previous, no, that was for the previous project.
All right, so that takes care of our,
You're handing out credit.
takes care of our two variances. So we have one other item of business. The discussion of proposed updates to the Stormwater Management Committee submittal checklist and application package. So who's going to be presenting that?
All right, so on your tablets, you've got two different versions of the checklist. The one we have now is SWMC_2021, and then the new one is SWMC_2022. Rebecca can also pull those up. Very minor changes. There was, I think that Mr. Mishu and one of the committee members had worked on some changes last year to the checklist. And some of the boxes, grayed out boxes, just didn't get highlighted right. So there were some things that, like an uncompensated fill variance, we weren't actually asking for the amount of uncompensated fill to be requested. So that's really all the changes that were made.
All right, does anybody have any comments on information and data that applicants need to be bringing that this checklist might facilitate greater prompting of preparation and less time consumed, searching for that data, remembering that we should ask for that data? That's typically what these checklists are for. It's to help the staff review it thoroughly so they have a complete packet of knowledge. And then it also helps us have that information organized in such a way that we can digest it as efficiently as possible, because the applicants are many times are having to drop billable time to come here, and it's not easy getting across town these days. So we want to try to make this as efficient as possible. So anybody have any comments? All right, seeing none. Anybody got any questions for the staff in their continued excellent, professional, thoughtful work? If it was church, I'd ask for an amen, but won't do that. All right. Okay, anything else? Any other items of business?
Mr. Chairman, I would just offer, as we have entered the brave new world of entering staff comments for each and every site, you probably saw today's language, and we just would make you aware we are open for comments. I have gotten some internal comments from those in our department. So
does that mean comments on the variance or comments on your
comments on
behavior?
my comments? Yes. So we are learning as we go. I think you can see a lot of these do come down to just whether there is a hardship or not. There's really not much else, but we are certainly open to continuing to modify our comments such that they help you all make the decisions that you need to make. I would offer today, the issue came up about the preliminary approval and the request today and what changes. Maybe a simple thing to do on that would be to put up an initial plan of record and what is the plan of record as they're going forward. I don't know how hard, Logan, that would be to do, but that might be something that would help the committee kind of reset, because sometimes there's some amount of time that has passed. But as always, we just continue to want to provide you all what you need to hear these cases. And as we tell applicants often, you all serve at the pleasure of the mayor. We are just a kind of a sidebar part of the process and just want to help do what we can do to help get things going.
Okay. Yeah, describing you all as a sidebar of the process would be akin to me not getting away with anything like that about my wife. So, you're a marital partner as far as I'm concerned. So, all right. Any other comments, questions, feedback?
I was going to say, we do appreciate the comments. They are helpful. So.
Yeah.
I'll second that. It's been useful.
Okay.
One other, and tell whoever is commenting on your behavior that we can comment on their behavior if we want to.
I would note one thing that might be of interest, and Mr. Fulmer probably knows this, but when we adopt a new a new version of the Stormwater Management Manual, it is a gradual process. We equate it to a train going through the station. So when we adopt them, that's when the engine goes through. And at some point, given where plans are in the process, been submitted, been through planning and whatnot, we grant certain allowances under the previous regulations. Just to let you know, the caboose at this point has probably passed the station, meaning that all projects at this point are under the new regulations. If you want to know the grading permit number, I think it's 2022-75302. If you're interested, at least that's what our friends at Development Services have told me. So just to let you know, at this point, our new regulations should be in full effect. And Rebecca has diligently already started another list, hopefully a very, very, very truncated list of things that we will revisit in the future. But that is sort of our ever ongoing process. So FYI.
That's the way professionals behave. All right. Anything else? Motion to adjourn? All right. Seconded? All in favor? All right, we're adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.